Jungle has always been the Big Bang of League of Legends. They're the atom that displaces everything else and creates an explosion, which progresses the game state. Checkmate creationists. They largely do this by leveling themselves up through efficient jungle pathing and optimal clearing. But what if I told you that the most efficient jungle pathing suddenly becomes the worst path once you climb to the highest ranks, including pro play? Well, that's exactly what many of the top junglers and the LCS are currently doing, and it's always been my belief that the jungle role is largely psychological, and at the highest levels of pro play, this is why inefficiency becomes the correct play and a real-world application. We're going to be looking at 100 Thieves' current jungler River, and why I believe him to not only be the best jungler in the LCS, but a case study in jungle tracking and creativity. But first, we have to take a step back all the way to 2020. In this play here of FlyQuest versus Team Liquid Week 9 in the 2020 Spring Split of LCS, Santorin is playing jungle Trundle here. He starts red and immediately paths all the way to top lane for a level 2 gank. No other camps were taken, and he gets first blood for his team. Now, you have to think, what kind of madman does this? Well, a man that understands chaos and unpredictability is his main weapon. When I asked Santorin about his weird jungle pathing, he said it's the best way to be impactful.
A lot of time you'll see me level 2 gank, but it's a very quick gank, and it's like usually very successful because I won't just go for a gank that makes no sense and like can potentially blow up my game. It kind of has to be like, there has to be a bigger purpose than me just being like, you know, I just feel like going top here. It's kind of like, you know, so I try to be very creative because I feel like not the only way you can be impactful as a jungler, but in the early game, the best way to be impactful is like doing something unexpected. And I think that's also, you see a lot of different junglers do a lot of very inefficient pathings, like even to the point where it's like, damn, if this gank doesn't work out, dude, he's in a really bad spot in the game.
Santorin was one of the best junglers at unorthodox routes, and in some ways, I think this reinvented his own style, which was getting very predictable. Unexpected pathing is a critical aspect of jungling at the highest level, but it's not only pathing that is critical, but how you match the enemy jungler, and this is why 100 Thieves jungler River is the best jungler in the LCS currently. In this play here of 2024 Summer Split Week 6, Shopify Rebellion versus 100 Thieves, at 107, Shopify places a ward at 100 Thieves Wraith Camp. 100T obviously spot this and can plan accordingly. Meanwhile, at 125, Sniper waits in the top lane at River, just outside enemy blue. He places a ward on enemy blue at 135. Meanwhile, River is starting his own blue buff. So now, River knows that starting route of the enemy jungler Boogie. Both junglers full clear their bot side jungle. Now, mind you, River goes to his wraiths and clears that, but he knows he's spotted because of that ward previously at his wraith camp. So he goes by his red and wards the bush at 238 in case Volibear gets cheeky with an invade, and then paths to clear Krugs. Meanwhile, Boogie is spotted pathing up to top at 250 because of that ward previously placed from Sniper. River says, hang on, play safe top, I'm clearing red, then bait for a fight Sniper. He listens to his jungler and River shadows him. The enemy top laner opts into a bad trade because he knows his jungler is near for a gank, which means he's half HP when this entire play happens. River shows up and 100T get 1 for 0. It's plays like this which shows the brilliance of 100 Thieves River, and pause, can I just say how annoying this guy's name River is? River is in the river, and the vision around River means that River, like, bro, come on. I guess that means just like his name, he's everywhere on the map at all times. Anyways, this is the power of tracking the enemy jungler, and this is something that you see more and more of after Worlds 2023, as in my win condition series, I noted that T1 would frequently set their jungler up for success by placing a ward at Wraiths to track the enemy jungler. You can also see that current LCS teams are now copying this strategy. This is done because it gives deductive reasoning. If you know where the enemy jungler isn't, that means you can calculate where he is. The jungle role gets more and more powerful as you get higher elo, especially in pro play, and that's because it's not the ganks that affect laners, it's the potential. Laners are under constant threat of determining where the enemy jungler is, which then prevents or enables certain plays they can make on the opposing laner. In an interview I did with Meteos back in 2019, he talks about the ubiquitousness of the jungle role and how it gives unseen pressure, but more importantly, that laners need to understand that the enemy jungler will often appear as though they're pressuring more because you see your own jungler, but you don't know where the enemy jungler is.
And there's always going to be this huge disconnect between laners and junglers, because laners feel this like pressure from the enemy jungler when they're unseen, right? But they're always seeing where their own jungler is. So to them, they might feel like, okay, my jungler's only around me 20% of the time, and their jungler could be around me 80% of the time. And so laners are always going to feel like there's an imbalance. And so, like, you know, it makes sense for laners to be like, yeah, you know, jungle can like affect my lane, I need more jungle help, that kind of thing. But just the nature of the role, you can't be everywhere at once. You have to be just doing something. It's what I always try to tell my teammates. I'm like, just because we don't see their jungler doesn't mean he's everywhere. It means he's one spot and we don't know where he is, so let's try to find him, kind of thing.
This gets into the psychology of jungle, and the best junglers will use this to their advantage. And actually, I discussed all of this in a video a while ago called "The Jungle Role is Purely Psychological," and I think it still holds up. And this opens up further when doing creative plays. I do want to point out that creative plays such as invading, which is often not efficient pathing, can create downsides. In this play of 2024 Spring Split Team Liquid versus Shopify Rebellion Week 4, 2 minutes 30 seconds in, paths straight from Wraiths to enemy red buff, flashing over barren wall to avoid the ward at the ramp, and narrowly missing the red buff of the enemy. So instead, he steals Krugs because his top laner has push. He greeds for Wraith Camp and is ultimately killed because his mid laner is an Aurelian Soul and doesn't have push early against Orianna. To hammer things home, I'll even point out that in 2024 Spring Split Week 6 Team Liquid versus Dignitas, XU reads like a book and his tendency to invade, as both junglers know that a vertical jungle situation is occurring. By the way, vertical jungling is when both junglers are in the top and bottom portions of the jungle, taking at least one of the enemy's sides of the camps. In this instance, XU takes the entire bot side jungle and then recalls and goes back to defend his red because Rel's smite plus Q ability is very high damage and he knows he can outsmite the enemy Wukong. Now he created a map state where he's always ahead of the enemy jungler. This creates a situation to where is constantly reacting to XU's plays, which eventually results in Dignitas being able to dive bot lane with 4 members to get first blood. This is how invading goes wrong without purpose and understanding the potential of enemy jungle routes. And while you can appreciate aggression from a jungler like it's very easy to control an aggressive jungler, as many lower level players would misconstrue Team Liquid's jungler as creative. He's simply doing a bad decision tree of the most aggressive move against the enemy jungler. This is akin to solo queue where you get invaded and so you want to do the same thing to the enemy, so you invade to steal back red or blue buff. A smart jungler will be able to control you in this way and do a better play on the map. Now, for a truly creative play, we can look back at River. In this play here of 2024 Week 5 of LCS Fly vs 100 Thieves, River is able to sneak through bot lane at the very start of the game. He barely enters the enemy jungle and escapes vision, is able to take red buff, and then immediately after, he paths towards bot lane as the enemy has a better early game bot lane, so they'll be pushing, and ganks them to get first blood. River is a master at understanding the limits of what he can and cannot do, and more importantly has great risk assessment and jungle tracking, which has allowed him to excel in the LCS. I actually haven't seen such a dominant display of jungle tracking, which is why I think he deserves MVP this split, even though his mid laner Quid has also been dominant as well. It's off the back of River's insane jungle tracking and creativity, which has allowed his team to dominate. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe to support analytical videos like this, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.